You had orange and blue on yesterday?
I did.
And you met with Todd?
I had.
I think she did it on purpose.
I do love you, Shirley.
Got an orange jacket and bright blue knees.
Dude, you notice girls' nails?
When they're that blue, yes.
Good morning. I'd like to welcome you to the May 15th, 2018 monthly work session. It's now 8:30 and we're going to begin. And first we have up Dr. Natalie Roca to talk about State College of Florida's Venice Collegiate College Charter application.
Good morning, everyone. Board chairs, school board members, Superintendent Dr. Bowden. So first on your agenda, as Ms. Goodwin said, is the application for the Collegiate Charter School submitted by SCF for on their Venice campus. As I mentioned to you in our note, it's a little bit different for a collegiate application. They're not subject to the same deadlines, and it's more of a joint effort with the sponsor and the college. So that's why you don't see a CRC report today. It's the leadership of SCF is here to discuss their proposal. Now the committee will meet in a few weeks and come back to you with a report and also come back to you with a draft of the charter contract. We'll try to do it at the same time. So with that, I will ask the SCF leadership to come up and have a seat.
Good morning.
Hi, good morning.
Morning.
So thank you for taking the time this morning. Is my mic on? Can you hear me?
Is the light on?
There we go. My name is Kylie Minogue. I'm the head of school of the SEF Collegiate School in Bradenton. And I want to introduce my colleagues here who have come with me to talk about the charter today. Dr. Ryan Hale, he's the dean of the Venice campus. Ms. Julie Jakeway, she's our vice president of business administration. And Gary Russell is our vice president of academics at the college. So we are here to present the application for a collegiate school in Venice. And I wanted to let you know that this is an application for a replication of the Bradenton Collegiate High School. The school in Bradenton is an A school since its inception in 2010-11. It's nationally recognized as a blue ribbon school, and it's also a high achieving charter. I have a handout that was given to you. Make sure everybody has one. That's just a visual as I explain the programming a little bit as to why our school is working so well over there. Let me start with our proposal is to open a charter school with grades 9 through 12. And we would open with 11th grade in fall of 2019 and eventually have 400 students in 2022. Our governing body is the SEF Board of Trustees, and again, it's located on the SEF Venice campus, which has a lot of access to our college resources. And the program is split between a pre-collegiate and a collegiate program called the Accelerated College Program. In 9th and 10th grade, we have a very traditional high school environment. The courses are rigorous and they fulfill graduation requirements. And the teachers are working with students at all levels. It's open access for 9th grade. There's no entry requirements, and for 10th grade, there's limited requirements. They have individual curriculum goals and collaboration with professors. They focus on mastery. They have remediation opportunities, and they have access to technology and resources to help their remediation and technological fluency. And then in 11th and 12th grade, they have met preparations in most cases to continue to the Accelerated College Program. There they have to meet legislative requirements. They have to have a 3.0 GPA and they have to have leveled into the PERT for college entrance to make sure that they're ready. they're full-time college students. They're taking classes that fulfill their AA degree and also their high school graduation requirements. They have individual learning plans and goals. They have individual advisement. And in both cases for these programs, they're a little bit separate, but they're anchored by the tenets of the school, which is to recruit to and work with first-generation families and to have an academic coach the whole way through. So on my Venn diagram here, you can see that in both cases, the students have access to technology, but also this academic coach, which is really the core of our program and which separates us from other dual enrollment programs. The academic coach in 9th and 10th grade will really work with our students on college and career readiness, on academics, on personal social issues, on international perspectives, which is part of guidance counseling tenets. And then as they go into 11th grade, they're going to focus more on advising. They're going to learn how to be college students. And in 12th grade, they get more help with what's next, the next institution, going through their applications, making sure they're taking the right prerequisites. So that piece, that academic coaching, is really the anchor for the program. And everything revolves around making sure that the students have access, making sure that the parents have access to what's going on at school. The support from the college is fantastic. At the Bradenton campus, we have access to administration, to facilities, to HR, to public safety, and finance. And that is another component for the administration of the school to be successful, but also the students, because they have access to all the resources on the college campus as well. That concludes my notes on what the program is about, but I imagine you might have questions on some of the logistics of the application.
I'm going to start to my right and let Mr. Robinson begin with a couple of questions. Eric, do you have any questions?
No, I just wanted to make sure that everybody understands that you guys are a public entity. There's no for-profit management company over you guys. You guys are a government entity. We enjoy a great partnership for quite a long period of time with SEF, and I used to be on the SEF board, and so was my wife. But I do want to point out that some of the things that I learned at SEF that I didn't know is that kids who go to SEF or other community colleges actually fare better when they go off to four-year universities than students who start off at a four-year university. So I think that's important, that it's a great foundation. And I knew Kylie when I was on SEF and the great work that she did there. The school there is slightly different, as they decided to go after first-generational Dr. Hafner started it with that in 6th grade. A lot of kids, it's the decision making about whether they're actually going to go to college or not. And so you guys started it at 6th grade. I really didn't particularly like that idea, but my wife was on the board when that decision was made, so I guess it was a good decision. But I just want to say firsthand, I've seen the excellence that they've done at the charter school in Manatee, and I know that they're going to replicate that in Venice. So thank you guys very much.
Shirley?
How will you be reaching out to minority students, and will there be assistance in travel? Or how are you going to transport your students, period, I suppose?
So we're starting slow. We're starting in 11th grade. So the initial recruitment, as we get the schools really on its feet, is going to be for students who have already met 3.0 GPA criteria, have already passed PERT. And our school went through this transition a little bit in Bradenton also when we first started the accelerated college program. The next step was making sure that our recruitment sessions were all access. We have sessions on campus where we do information sessions. We have tours of the school. We have individual meetings with the guidance counselor. You want me to pull this up a little bit?
Yeah.
There you go. We have all of creative services and marketing on the SEF campus behind us as far as getting information out. We did some studies when I was putting the charter together about Northport, and that's where the goal of our recruiting would be, to reach first-generation families. In Bradenton, we really campaign the whole area of Manatee County, and we also do sessions in Spanish. So that was how we brought in our minority population there.
What about transportation?
And then transportation, for 11th and 12th grade, we won't have it right away, but we will have busing for 9th and 10th grade once that begins. 11th and 12th grade, we will offer bus passes to students who might need them. But because they can work their own schedules and because many students drive by 11th grade, we're not going to offer busing the first 2 years. As the school gets on its feet, we'll offer for 9th and 10th.
Okay.
And then, of course, 11th and 12th will be able to take it then.
All right, thank you.
Caroline?
Well, I would like to say is that I wish that we had this type of support in our schools, because when I read your synopsis here, I mean, it's just fantastic to have guide them through. They have an advocate for students. They're there to guide them through their academic career. It's just amazing all of the support that you're able to put in to play there. How are you able to do that? I mean, this is just a curiosity question.
Right. It's the way that the teachers are scheduled. So the teachers are academics for 9th and 10th grade for high school courses. They have their academic classes, then they have one section where the students are assigned a coach. So they turn into an academic coach for that one section. And Mr. Hale might actually be able to talk about it a little bit because he was an academic coach for some of his time when he was with us at the collegiate school. And they have a guidance curriculum that is made in the guidance department with the help of the teachers, and that is a template as the students and the teachers grow. So at our school, if you come in as a 9th grader, you get assigned a coach. You will also have that coach for 10th grade. So they get them for 2 years. They really know them, and they're able to talk to them. Again, it's a smaller school, so we're able to keep track of all the students. We know all their names, and that helps immensely. When they get to 11th grade, they have a seminar class. So they don't meet every day, but they meet once a week, twice a week, and then they have individual counseling sessions for advisement with their families if they choose. So that one person, that academic coach and advisor for 11th and 12th grade, is responsible for maybe 180 students right now. But because of these seminar classes, they're able to check in all the time. Because of the technology and the Canvas learning management system, they're able to communicate all the time. They have a lot of reflections. We're able to catch students who might be going through some turbulent times with the reflections. So I would say a mixture of curriculum and time management and regular scheduling is how we're able to help all those students.
I like it. I think it's a great idea.
Also texting late at night.
I was just wondering how we could do it.
But it's really a scheduling logistics. Yeah.
I apologize for being late. I'm having problems with my eyes today.
I think you were right on time. We just started when you came in.
Thank you.
I have a couple of thoughts and a couple of questions. I like the academic coach. So the first year you'll have 11th and 12th grade. Mm-hmm. So those, in essence, will be involved in the dual enrollment program.
Right away, yes.
And then
11th
after
and 12th, or just 11th in the first year?
First year's 11th. Second year's 11th and 12th.
Then 12 would be 11 and 12 the second year, mm-hmm. and the third year you would go with 9 and 10.
The third year would be 9 and 11 again and 12, and then we would be fully realized after 4 years.
Have you had any problems with 9th graders on a college campus?
Well, not as a group. I mean, there's always been a few here and there, but our Building 19 on the Bradenton campus, they understand that this is who they are, this is their building, this is where they're at. And when they go out on campus, it's a privilege. They're monitored. They're in uniforms. They don't have their phones. So we take away some things that might be, issues already. But
yeah, I like that.
Yeah, when they're in 9th grade and they're in their uniform, you can see them across the quad. So we know that they're where they're supposed to be. They do a good job of making sure that they're in the right place at the right time, because we're very apt to making sure our reputation on campus stays positive.
Well, I think we need to offer more opportunities for our students and not less, and I think that dual enrollment works very, very well for some students. So I look at this positively, particularly in South County. We have some schools right now that are already getting crowded in the high school level, and I think this would be a wonderful opportunity for engagement of some of our students from both Venice High and Northport High School. I happen to have mentored a young woman who graduated from high school and entered State College South Campus, about a year and a half ago. And so I went with her to the orientation program, where I was not supposed to sit in on that program as I understood it, but I got special permission to sit in. And it was wonderful for me because I learned so many things that I didn't know about the availability of things on the campus. I had been involved with the campus a bit in the past, but was really delighted. It reinforced a lot of my knowledge and new aspects of the school that I really didn't know. So it was a great opportunity. So I'd say you might want to open that up for some parents and other people sometime, because I think it's a great marketing tool for you all to use.
It's directed to Dean Hale.
with parents, because I think that there were a lot of things that I found to be extremely helpful to me. Dr. Bowden, do you have any?
I do. We have a number of students who are actually full-time students at the State College through early admission programs. Matter of fact, I remember there were a number of kids through the technical high school that spent their entire senior year on your campus. How do you anticipate that this school will impact the early admission program? Is it your preference that they would transfer to the school, or would we still have the early admission program?
To start and
Go ahead.
that was something that I did consider when we're writing the charter. I think that our program offers a different environment, so it really depends on the student. I don't think, I'll let Dean Hale answer that question, but from my perspective, working on the Bradenton campus, it's really a different situation. Some students want to be in high school with high school friends in that community while taking the college courses, and some students don't want anything to do with high school and they want to get as far away from it as they can. So I think it's just a choice and experience and what they would have that way. But.
Yeah, and I can add to that. I think it's a kind of the position and the access for the students, more choices. So if the student is early admission, they've usually completed all of their high school graduation requirements already, and they're just doing this because it's a way to get a jump start for that year. Accelerated dual enrollment, they'll do junior year and senior year there, but they maintain their affiliation with their high school and they'll graduate. And to some students, that's really important, being able to graduate with their classmates, although they may need the ability to accelerate. So I think it just is a matter of giving different opportunities and different choices.
Great. My next line of questions just is, I know it's a little early, but when you bring those 9th and ultimately 10th graders onto your campus, can you talk about how you comply with Jessica Lunsford Act, which doesn't apply to your 11th and 12th graders because they're dual enrolled and they're adults under the law when they're taking the dual enrollment portion, but when you have 9th and 10th graders on your Bradenton campus, how do you handle compliance with Jessica Lunsford?
Might be able to answer some too. The college has been really helpful and has pretty much made the whole college a Jessica Lunsford Act area. I mean, everyone who comes in is fingerprinted now. All the employees are fingerprinted to level 2. Any of the facilities folks that come in, contractors, if they're working in and around our building, everybody has to be under that compliance. Our building specifically is its own K-12 environment. We have all of our doors are locked and alarmed. We have magnetic door entry and swipe cards for safety. And everybody who comes in goes through Raptor and is scanned. And if there's any field trips, everybody's fingerprinted, things like that. So inside of our environment, it is absolutely K-12. On the outside, even with the help of the college, the students are part of a field trip. So parents are aware, they sign forms at the beginning of the year that if they're going to the library, then they're going on a field trip. Or if they're going to the bookstore, it's actually a field trip onto the campus. And we've worked it to kind of make little zones of K-12 environment versus college environment.
And what do you do to educate the 18, 19, 20-year-olds on your campus, that there are 14, 15-year-olds on the campus, and that they're off limits?
They normally don't interact unless they're in classes together. So that would be the biggest thing, that we keep them apart as much as we can, unless there's special circumstances. For example, the ACS, the American Chemical Society group, they will do a science day for our 8th graders, and our 8th graders will spend all day in the labs. So there's special days like that where they interact. But again, the uniforms really help maintain those lines. I think sometimes it's a little bit blurred if there's a employee who has a student on campus, because then they're in the student union where they're not supposed to be, but they're with mom. So what do you do? Because they're with their mom, and it's usually okay. Or if they have a big brother or sister, the sister can go in the student union because she's dual enrolled, but the brother can't because he's in, 9th grade. So that's about the only situation where we've had to figure it out.
Any other questions, Eric?
Yeah. I just want to clarify. See, over there's Building 19, and it's on the edge of campus, and it's separated from the rest of the school. And so when you see those kids walking around, they're like walking together, and it's noticeable who they are and where they're at. They're not, you would think, oh, they just show up to school and they're going their own separate ways, and it kind of is not that. And that's what you envision how dual enrollment is, that different kids are taking different classes, so it's not quite like that. And if I can just give my own take on Ms. Zucker's question is, since I've been on both boards, the amount of money they get per delivery of students is a lot less than what we get. And so when they operate their charter schools, they're able to get additional funding for delivery of instruction. And because some convoluted rules that I still don't understand, they're not able to reap that benefit or transfer it over to any place else. That money has to be used at the charter schools. And so that's why they're able to give a bigger bang for the buck, because the cost per delivery of instruction at SEF is a lot cheaper than the cost of instruction at our schools, for a variety of reasons: class size amendment, the infrastructure. There's a lot of reasons why ours are different, because we're dealing with smaller kids. So there's a variety of reasons why, but they get a lot less funding per instruction that we do. So with that extra funding, I think, Caroline, going to your question, they're able to provide all those extras with that additional money. I know that there was times we were like, okay, we ended up with a positive money. What do we do with that money? And there were strict rules that they can't use that money to subsidize the college. It has to be used, at the charter school. Which I still don't understand. And
we all know how much money the class size amendment has cost the state of Florida. Billions of dollars. Shirley.
You talked about uniforms. The 9th and 10th graders have uniforms, and they can tell. Do the 11th and 12th graders also have a uniform that sets them out?
No.
It's just the 9th and 10th.
Just 9th.
It was interesting what Eric talked about, the difference in cost. I mean, I'd like to have that broken out. I'd like to know what that difference is. It's interesting. So you're only allowed to the state actually tells you how much money you can charge a student, correct? And then we give you money. So we give you more money, not we give you. The state allocates more money for the 9th and 10th, the kids through this program, through the FEFP, than what you can charge students?
So it's tuition free.
Right, I know it's tuition free, but the money comes through the state. And how does that compare to the dollars that you get from a student in tuition?
Oh, I see. So that would be a question for you.
And I know you might not have that today, yeah. and I'm not asking for you to pull that off the top of your head, but I think that's an important distinction. And if that's true, I can see how you can offer more things, perhaps even transportation. Mm-hmm. Because the FEFP includes dollars for transportation.
A few, yeah.
Yeah, a few. We know it doesn't cover everything, but I think that's a good point. If in fact you can use those dollars and give them a better experience, interesting. But good luck. And I remember when Manatee started.
Broken down You would have the college broken down, so between us.
So the money that comes in from to the school is 100% used for the
Right.
charter schools we discussed. There's no profit layer on top of it. We're not for profit. There's and the infrastructure and administration is already built into the cost of the college. We don't have the comparison, but the budget's in your packet. And you'll see that we do intend to use all of those dollars, but we do intend to use them as discussed for directly related student support activities.
But if I can add, but I think that like they have to require, there's a requirement to have home room in 9th and 10th grade. There's no requirement to have home room for dual enrollment upper level college. So there's some things that aren't equal to equal. But I think on general, I think they pretty much get half per student than what we get for FEFP. But I think it's about 4,000.
What did your budget had a dollar?
No, I mean for a regular college student. How much did you SEF?
For a regular college student,
Right.
FEFP? Well, we don't do it on I haven't calculated on a per student basis, but I can get you the information.
But again, it's apples and oranges. It's really not fair to compare the two because we have certain requirements that they don't have.
But the tuition is a good bang for your buck. I do know that. A really good.
Fair comparison.
No. And then if we're doing dual enrollment and it is at your charter school, that's one thing. If we're doing dual enrollment from our high school, that's another, because there are monies involved that we pay by hour and so forth for those students that attend. And that changed a great deal a few years ago, and I can remember when we went, ouch, but that did change. Caroline?
I'm happy to see this application. I remember a couple of years ago when you submitted an application and the students, the younger grades were going to be mixed with the older grades, and it wasn't as clear as it is now. But it's really come a long way, and I'm really happy that you are going to be part of us, and where we have our students will be able to take advantage of what you offer at the college.
Thank you.
I have a quick question. After graduation, they have an AA degree in their hands. And I suppose if they get a certain great GPA, they can get the Bright Futures. I mean, do you help them get the Bright Futures with the community? All right, so what happens after graduation?
So for the students, all through their senior year, they're going to be applying for colleges. They're going to make sure they have the Bright Futures.
And so you're helping them apply for the 4-year?
Yeah, we help them with
the balance of the 4-year.
Yeah, we help them with their FAFSA. The counselor and advisor helps them with their prerequisite classes. They try to nail down what their major is going to be at the next institution or institutions. They help do recommendation letters. They really push them through the whole.
Is there something that helps them other than the Bright Futures that helps them with the cost of the college?
Many of our students get scholarships just because they're graduating with an AA. There is a relationship with the Bradenton campus to have some extra tuition hours at FGCU. I don't know that, and USF, Sarasota Manatee. I'm not sure if that relationship will extend to the Venice campus. We're going to ask that it does, but we're not sure about that right now.
So you're saying that, is it USF you said, gives them some tuition assistance? And what other school?
FGCU.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
But
Well, I think all of the major Florida universities in the university system are happy with people that have an AA and come to them. They really would prefer to not have a freshman and sophomore in campus, but to have one who's a junior in campus. From what I know of the University of Florida's admission program, that definitely is accurate. But I just think that that it's a wonderful addition to our toolbox for our students to give them some flexibilities and some options that we haven't had in the past. And you're placing this on a campus in the area that we're anticipating to have the greatest growth in the next 10 years. may have something to do with baseball. I don't know, but we're thinking that the West Villages and some of the other larger opportunities of development that are coming into South County will make it even more possible for more families to move in and give our students another flexibility in terms of choices that they have. So it looks good.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Anything else that you need to add?
No, thank you.
Well, thank you for being here.
I appreciate your time today.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Enjoy your day. Thank you. Do you want to take around this present? You want to sit here?
She didn't want to say it because they wanted to wait for the
We'll get there.
She didn't want people to think that they would get the benefit.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Right, just in time.
Next up, we are doing our iReady evaluation, and we have Dr. Natalie Roca and Dr. Denise Cantalupo.
Hi. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, board members, Superintendent Bowden. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about the evaluation. You've received a copy of it, I hope, and the rubric, the second rubric, which was for the implementation of iReady. Natalie will be joining us in a second. She was just walking them out. So do you want me to wait, or we can begin?
Let's begin.
Okay. So in February, you asked if we would do an evaluation of iReady, and we came back and we gave you a rubric that was in two parts. The first part was based on 6 dimensions that we looked at already when we were purchasing the product. So this evaluation focused on the second half, from dimensions 7 to 12, and there were 27 indicators in those dimensions that we looked at. And we gathered data a number of different ways. We did teacher surveys, principal surveys, we did some interviews, looked at a lot of student data, and that's what went into this report. So in the essence of time and not having to go step by step, I'm going to do an overview of what we were looking for in iReady, and to see, did we, as we scrutinized it and looked at the information, did it pass muster on these? So there was 27 indicators. 23 of them we pretty much met outright. 2 we partially met, and 2 we didn't meet, and we need to look further at those. When we were looking for iReady, or a product like iReady, there was several components that I think the district was looking for. One was a formative assessment tool, and in reading and mathematics. And we wanted to evaluate whether teachers saw it that way, and did they use it to progress monitor students. So we asked them that. There was definitely a relationship between how long teachers were using the product and whether they felt confident using it. Teachers of elementary felt more confident using it, but they all said, teachers elementary, middle, and high school felt that they could use the product and are using the product to progress monitor data. I mean, 97% of elementary students are using it, elementary teachers are using it that way. The middle school teachers, 87% of the respondents said that. And then principals, we asked, did they think that teachers were using the product with fidelity and in a number of different areas? And they agreed also, to a very high rate, that they were using it effectively and with fidelity to progress monitor kids. And that data is in the various tables 2 through 6, if we want to go back to those. Another thing we were looking for when we were evaluating, we were purchasing iReady, and then subsequently we wanted to evaluate its implementation. Was it aligned to the FSA? That was a big component of this. Could we have data during the year that we could then look at so we could predict how we were going to do on iReady, on the FSA? And then maybe change the course of instruction, more importantly, during the year if we didn't feel that we were going in that direction. And if you remember the dashboard, and James, who's showing it up to you here, this is in charts 1 and 2, and this is 16-17 data, assessment periods 1, 2, and 3 for iReady, which is the blue, black, and green lines. And the yellow bar is the FSA data, and this is across the various grade levels in reading. Huh?
You call that yellow?
Yeah, I was going to say it's more like orange.
Oh, sorry, orange. I actually have my own little copy here because I can't even see that far. So,
Orange.
orange. Sorry.
The orange never touches the blue.
So
Don't start.
we set a bar. We said that, well, does iReady predict FSA within 5 percentage points at the various grade levels? And it did. So it did prove in reading at all grade levels to be predictive of FSA. At mathematics, we had it.
Eric, it's on page 7 of our handout, so you don't have to.
I'm sorry.
It's like, how did you be able to see?
I would rather you stand in the corner, but
I can see it.
With mathematics, we did the same, except for grade 7. And grade 7, there was a good reason for that. In grade 7, we gave the FSA in 7th grade, but many of our 7th graders that year took the 8th grade FSA, so it didn't predict as well. But in all the other grade levels, it did. Was it correlated with the FSA? Yes, at a high level. In social sciences, we think like a 0.7 is a good correlation, and that was one of the lowest correlations with iReady and the FSA. I think it was 8th grade, but the rest are higher than that at the 0.8 level. So it's correlated, it predicts, so pretty much we establish it's very much aligned.
This makes me happy.
Write that down.
And it's also on the dashboard, so you can see it up there from year to year. Another thing we were looking at, and it's part of this evaluation within the 27 indicators, is iReady could we purchase a tool, and was iReady that tool that we could use for instruction? So it's not just assessment, it's not just progress monitoring, it's not just prediction, but could it be an instructional tool? So we we asked teachers several questions about this and principals. Teachers reported that they are using it for an instructional tool. They're using it in various ways. The strongest is that they're using it for differentiated instruction. They're using it, of course, we said progress monitoring, but then also to provide computer-based individualized instruction to reinforce skills. That data is in Table 4. The elementary level will use it. I noticed that trend. They've had the product longer, so they're using it more. A higher percentage of them report using the toolbox and more advanced features for the instructional piece. I think probably the most important use of this tool, or the biggest outcome that we found, well, is it measuring student growth? That's the bottom line here. Do we see it in the performance indicators? So we looked at that 2 ways. Were students who spent more time on iReady? And on average, students spend about 30 minutes a week in reading and 30 minutes a week in mathematics on iReady.
is this graph in our packet? I'm not seeing it.
It's on the dashboard, and it's also on chart 1 and 2, I think it was. That one up on the top is the smaller version of what you were looking at with prediction. And the rest of it is the dashboard he has up. So the whole dashboard is not in here, just that one chart to the upper right.
So Denise, you're saying even with it used for instruction, we're talking about 30 minutes?
30 minutes, on average, when I looked at that, and that's on tables, so you can see it visually, approximately 30 minutes for reading and 30 minutes of math.
Even using it for instruction as well as the other?
All I could do is pull the information from behind the scenes and to see, now it varies. Some schools use it more than that, some schools use less than that, but it's about that amount.
30 minutes a week.
30 minutes reading, 30 minutes math.
Yeah.
It's about an hour of additional instruction. Now, do they use, I'm measuring students on the system.
Yeah.
Are teachers using it besides that for the data chats, for working with
they would have to.
administration?
Yeah,
That's
they would have.
totally different measurement.
Right.
But this is just kids.
But I was curious about the just kids part.
Yeah, just kids.
Does it vary by school or does it vary by classroom? So could a certain teacher,
Yes.
no matter what school she's at, say, I want to use iReady more than somebody else?
Yes, that flexibility is there. That's flexible, and you'll see that among different schools and among different teachers in different schools.
Schools do set minimum thresholds, but then they go above and beyond that.
No one's going to get told for using it too much.
No.
No one's going to say you use
Oh, and
or something like that.
there's 24 access at home, too, so a student can use it at home as well. A last part of this, one of the other big measures is student growth, and we looked at that two ways. We looked at if children that are spending more time on it, like 45 minutes in reading and 45 minutes in math, did they have larger increases? And they did, and this is shown in Table 8 and charts 4 and 5. We also looked and said, well, are our lower achieving students, those students that are Tier 3, the lowest functioning, they're at least one grade level behind, how did they fare using it? And what page is that?
Page 18.
And page 18, you can see this for reading and for math graphically. That for the top chart is grades 1 through 5, chart 4, and then chart 5 is grades 6, 7th, and 8th. And looking at the difference between the fall and the spring assessments, we can see that children, that the number or the percent of children that were scoring at Tier 3, at least one grade level below, is lessened. So for all students that are doing it with higher fidelity, 45 minutes a week, I don't know if that's higher fidelity, but at least more time. And for those students that are the lowest achieving, are performing well using it. And we're capturing that information. There were two areas where we feel that the outcomes weren't met and that some additional information needs to be gathered, and we're looking and targeting additional training. One is student engagement. Students, we would have liked to seen a higher percentage of teachers report, and this is teachers reporting about students, that the children more positively engaged with it, and we found a decrease at the middle school level. But we do know this is an issue that the company has been looking at. They're well aware of the problem, and they are redesigning it to be more applicable for middle school. The second issue is that we were hoping that more teachers would use the results for error analysis. And that's something that we think we need to do additional training in. The tool is really a good tool to be doing that kind of thing. And we know that that's a big part of formative assessment. When we get data back, what are the pattern of errors that we're seeing in our children's performance so that we can change instruction and then hopefully improve our scores. So that's pretty much my overview. I can go back piece by piece, but it would take longer than a half hour. Or you can ask me some questions, and then Natalie has her sum up.
Right. Good morning again.
Eric, do you have a question before?
No, mine was global.
Okay.
Usually he likes for me to go so he can interrupt me, so I'm kind of waiting for that part. It's a thing we do. So first of all, I think Denise did a very good job presenting a vast amount of information with all of those indicators and some charts as well as some sound bites about the findings.
Yes, thank you, Denise. Great job, as usual.
I'm just here for moral support. So as Denise said, basically the implications for us at the district and for schools, we're happy that it's predicting FSA results, which means we can keep track of students to see if they're on target. The data is found to be valuable by principals and teachers to help them with their data chats. It's another piece of data that adds value to the already extensive amount of information that we have about our students. As expected, teachers that have been using it longer feel more comfortable using the different components, and those like the middle school that are newer to the process will need more support from us at the landings, more PD, more support from staff as well as from the curriculum associates should we move forward with this program for next year. And so basically it's doing what we think it should do. And the important thing too is with the instructional part for students, those students are showing growth. So yeah, great assessment, great progress monitoring tool, students showing growth in terms of the instruction and their learning process. And as Denise said, the curriculum associates, this is a component program, and it is quite extensive, and they have been very receptive. They're serving, I don't know how many other districts in Florida. And so they're very, they listen to customers' concerns, and they act more of like a partner, because they do work with our staff with the delivery of PD. And again, with the student engagement piece, if some of those things were kind of cartoonish for the older kids, and they saw that, they heard us, and they're going to make those improvements. So we're pleased with that process. So if we can move forward with this product for next year, we think that it's going to be a good asset and a good complement to our current programs.
When is our contract up?
For the middle school, it's this year, and for elementary, we have one more year of the contract.
If we didn't use iReady, what would we use?
Well, we'd have to have, this is the only program where all the pieces are tied together. We'd have to buy a progress monitoring tool over here and something else over there. And I think that's why when we reviewed it years ago, we felt it was the best approach for Sarasota. And again, our colleagues in other counties feel the same way. And some of them had the staff to do more of an RFP and came to the same conclusion. So we feel comforted by that aspect or that result. So if we don't have it, I'm not quite sure.
I think 55 out of 67 districts. That's not the only reason to use this, but that's
a lot.
much.
Yes, that's a lot.
And so they've all done their due diligence, I think, in researching.
And we feel that this might help our grades improve and FSA.
It's going to help support our teachers. It's all about the teachers and their practice that will hopefully, be reflected in our results. No one tool is going to help scores go up. It's all the things that happen in between, or as they use the data to drive their instruction and also communicate with the parents. And even during the summer, some of our partners and agencies also rely on the iReady to help with the tutorial programs and those summer programs. Wait, hold on. You ready? Okay.
I thought you had your hand up first. I don't want you to feel that you're the only male that we're citing you unfairly. So please go ahead, Eric.
Trying to be chauvinistic. Of the board, on the board.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Dr. Bowden, did you want to say something?
I forgot about you.
I'm fine, thank you.
I just want to first.
Ignored him purposely. Dr. Bowden, please start. Excuse me, Eric.
Yes, ma'am.
Dr. Bowden, please take the floor.
I just wanted to be recognized as present and male. That's all.
My gender is also male. I just wanted to thank you guys for doing this, and I know this is a lot of work, and a lot of this work was because you guys wanted to create a framework to be able to use this going forward on other projects, and so it's good to know this so that when you do other projects, you need to know what's working, what's not working, what do we need to, do more of, what do we need to do less of. But I also not only want to thank Dr. Roca and Dr. Canlupo, but Dr. Kingsley, who's not sitting up there, also did a lot of work on this, and she's sitting back there, not to like she is always behind the scenes, but I want to make sure she gets her kudos. It made me happy that there's correlation. That made me happy that there was correlation. It made me happy that the more people used it, the more they achieved their target goals in Table 8. I just want to let you know that the two parts that you said negative, if there wasn't anything negative, I'd be very suspicious. But as a father of middle schoolers, I can probably tell you it's probably because the middle schoolers just start Christmas treeing those electronic stuff. I don't know what Dr. Bowden, if you've seen that, but middle schoolers have that tendency to do that.
There is a recognition, not just here in Sarasota, with the product, when you talk with the developers, is it started as an elementary product. The middle school product could be described as juvenile, just the way it presents itself, although it's middle school content. And so that's something that they're going to invest in, is that when middle school kids go there, middle school kids want to feel grown, and they see a juvenile, something that was designed for elementary, and it's a turnoff. It's, I'm not a little kid, why do I have to do
But
this?
I bet if you looked at IXL and MemBeam, I think you would see the same type of thing.
Well, engaging middle schoolers in anything is a
Lord knows. But I was questioning, is the AP3 up on the dashboard yet?
No, we're collecting that information. Some schools are still testing. It'll be up within probably 2 weeks. We have to do some data cleansing, and
I know it's too late to do anything, but it would be interesting to know if after the testing, whether you guys were satisfied. I don't even know the exact numbers. I'm just curious if you guys were end up satisfied this year about the correlation.
We'll look at it again.
That's what, I'm not looking for the exact numbers. I can get that on dashboard, but I just want to know overall, is the staff happy with that correlation?
And so the AP3 has very little predictive value, particularly when it takes place simultaneously and after FSA. It's for those lower grades, K2, in which there's not a state assessment, where the AP3 is crucial because we can base growth off of it. So I would just caution on the AP3 that it has very little, if any, predictive value, but it is crucial.
Maybe I misspoke. The iReady predictive score in totality for this school year, is that a better way of saying it? If staff is satisfied with the predictive nature of it for this year when that information comes, is that okay to request?
Well, it's not predictive because it's,
Is that what
and an AP3 takes place afterwards, so it doesn't.
Well, I didn't mean AP3. I mean the AP1, A2, 3. I mean maybe I'm using the wrong nomenclature.
No, it's okay. We'll definitely.
Am I using the wrong nomenclature, Denise?
Well, I think we're saying this is a test are simultaneous. It's very difficult to, or very close.
Well, forget about that. I said AP3. Okay.
No, AP1 and AP2 will definitely be. We look at all three, and we'll look at the correlation between them. And I don't expect much difference, but I would think it would be.
And I'm just again, I'm not looking for. I'm just curious, is staff satisfied? That's all I was asking. Is that okay to ask for?
I think you just did.
Okay. Well, will I get the answer?
One last thing I do want to say is
will I get the answer?
I think you have the answer in front of you, that staff is very satisfied with the product.
No, I meant for...
with the correlation?
I was talking about for 17, 18.
No, we are constantly scrutinizing the product from a psychometric perspective and also instructionally. That's why psychometric, like, is it correlated, predicting the attributes of the test?
Here.
Yes, I make up words. That's actually a true word.
It's a word.
So, and that's why I said the publishers are very sensitive to that and are constantly improving their product as a result of listening to their stakeholders. And I think there was a really interesting meeting that took place when all of Denise's counterparts met statewide and were presenting some of the iReady information and also interacting with the vendors. And, you know, we have our standards and expect that from the folks that publish these kinds of assessments. So we're all over it.
Shirley.
Well, you know, I'm glad to see we're working with a product where, you know, 55 of the 67 counties are using it, and maybe that number will grow or not, and that they're making some changes to the middle school. I mean, you know, and I see what they're coming out in 2019, 2020, and going more. But I know that anytime you bring something new in, just bringing something new in, I don't care whether it, you know, what it looks like or how well it is. I mean, we're going to get pushback. Teachers don't like something new and they have to learn something else. But one thing that I think we have to be careful of is, you know, coming up with it. I think Dr. Safe here mentioned it, you know, the new something this year, and then they have to change and they have to learn it all over, something new all over again. I think having something that we know works and that the teachers use it and they get comfortable with it, like it more. There's always going to be somebody when you've got that thinks they could do it better. And maybe we ought to put that suggestion box back out there, and maybe they can tell iReady. And I would imagine iReady would welcome comments from teachers if there's something that they don't like, and to let teachers, I guess they would talk to you, Denise, right? And you would forward them on to iReady, because they want to make their product the best and most responsive to teachers also. So rather than throwing out the baby with the bathwater, and somewhere I learned about where that saying came from. I'll tell you another day. But rather than throwing the baby out with the bathwater, that you know, we kind of get out another bar of soap and scrub them up a little bit.
From listening to the teachers and hearing their comments, you can see the more comfortable they get with it, the more they understand it, they value its use. And as far as the company, they actually call us in and they ask us what our interpretation is, what we think, even down to the interface. So should it look like this? Do you think we should display that? So as they are moving their product along, that's all they do is have these kinds of psychometric kind of conversations, but also even visual display they ask us about. So it's pretty in-depth. And we've done a lot of training. And I mean, I guess my point, if we did replace it, we've had over 4 years of training in some of these areas, and those people are now exhibiting confidence because of that training. So I guess we wouldn't want to throw out the baby with the bathwater.
I noted there were a few teachers that had not been trained yet, though, in this.
There were, and I kept thinking that's 1 or 2. I don't know where they're coming from, but they said they weren't, maybe new to the district.
8 teachers or something.
Yeah.
They're new.
I know, I was surprised.
Caroline? Dr. Bowden?
I think we're good.
You want to hear where that saying comes from, as long as we got 2 minutes extra?
No. No, I don't.
We're afraid. We don't want to hear it.
I just want to show one other feature and showcase James again, if I can. If you can get the dashboard on, we've now drilled down to very specific components of iReady. If you could look up in the top left corner, it's hard to see from there, but we now have not only subscales, we have time on task, lessons plans, lessons passed rather, lessons failed. So we have a lot more intricate information out there that he's been working on, so for everybody to see.
Well, thank you for this. I think it's very helpful. And Dr. Kingsley's always worried that I'm going to say, let's throw the baby out with the bathwater, right? But I think this is probably a very good tool for us to use. I think finally that I would have to say it is expensive. However, we're certainly doing a lot of great things with it, and that formative assessment is such an important piece in determining instruction. And so I'm very, very well happy. Dr. Kingsley, I thought I should say that to you. But thank you all for your hard work. And data is what drives everything today. And so we're really happy with all these dashboards and other things that you're intricately working on. And thank you, Dr. Roca, as well, for your leadership.
So I'm going to assume that we can continue our negotiations with Curriculum Associates. Again, we're just negotiating. We haven't committed to anything, and that they are coming back with some nice proposals and some nice add-ons, additional PD, additional features. So I would come back to the board with the proposal for the middle school program for next year. I can bring that back to you.
More professional development, yes.
Targeted and meaningful, relevant.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. Shirley, if you have 2 seconds to tell us what that means, go right ahead, because everybody is waiting.
Back when you you didn't have running water and hot water in the home, you had to have a bucket, and everybody took a bath in the bucket. That was where I was when I was a young child. But normally they had, the father, and then it went down, and the last one to take a bath in the bucket in the tub was the baby, and they would say, because by then the water got pretty dirty, and don't throw the baby out with the bath water. But I would have washed the baby first and made Daddy wait till last. But apparently, back then, men had a higher standing back then than they do now. Now that we've learned a little bit more about them.
I want to know psychometric measures.
You're psycho?
It's your brain.
That was like
Something about, psyche. Well, your psyche. It might. It might. Okay, next we have our SCF articulation, and brought to us at great expense, Steve Cantees, Catherine Kokoza, and Penny Reniker. Thank you for being here. I'm looking forward to this.
Well, good morning. I guess we'll be seeing a lot of each other here over the next few days with graduations coming up, and starting Thursday through Sunday. So I'm excited that we will be able to spend all that time together.
And hopefully we got rid of all of our rain and the nasty weather before this weekend, right?
I don't even say the word or even think about it. It's going to be fine. It's going to be great. Last night was beautiful. Yesterday evening, I was thinking if it's like this every night, we're going to have some amazing graduations outdoors. So
I'm going to bring my poncho.
as a backup plan, that's probably not a bad idea. So good morning. Thank you for allowing us to be here. There's a lot of work that's been going on around the area of dual enrollment in Sarasota County. Over the last few years, we've added articulation agreements with USF, Sarasota Manatee. We've also just added one online version with UF. We're one of, I believe, 11 districts in the state right now, and they're going to continue to expand that. So this is our kind of our agreement that we've work on every year with State College of Florida. That's the purpose of this meeting. One of the things that was asked of our group that works on this articulation committee was that we provide an avenue for input from the community. The articulation agreement is typically designed work through a series of meetings with staff from SEF and our staff. And our staff typically would be our curriculum department. Catherine Chicoza is our director of curriculum. Penny Reedinger works with our guidance teams through pupil support services and our articulation agreements. Penny takes the lead on these and does an amazing job every year, so I want to thank them for the hard work and the time they put in. A lot of hours go into this. So the request to increase input from outside I thought was a good idea. Let's find ways to solicit input. This year, in our first round at this, what we decided to do was to provide put the articulation agreement out there in draft form. You have the draft version of the articulation agreement. And then provide a period of time where we could solicit input from the community in the form of comments. So you have a rather large packet there that we sent to you. In that packet, I'm going to walk you through the packet and tell you what's in each section of those packets or of your packet, and then I'm going to let Penny and Catherine. Okay, so you would have received the packet over the weekend through email, okay? Yes. You got it? Okay. Okay, so that being said, so in your packet, you would have the input from stakeholders with suggestions and recommendations about the posted articulation agreement, and a document sent to SEF with input, recommendations, considerations, requests for revision from Sarasota County Schools. There were 11 emails received with this kind of input, so that would be this document here, okay? The second piece, obviously at the top of it, you have the draft articulation agreement. Secondly, you have the input from stakeholders regarding the elimination of 3 math courses at Pineview this year. There were 36 emails received on this topic, so you have the emails. With those, third, the input from stakeholders in support of the articulation agreement. We received 34 emails generally in support of the articulation agreement. And then number 4, you would have the input from stakeholders that required personalized response from Sarasota County Schools. And Penny made those personalized responses based on those emails. So if it was an email that required a personal response, then she provided that. So I'm going to ask the Catherine and Penny to give you some general communication about how the process worked, and then we're going to open it up for questions. I don't think if you had an opportunity to look through the documentation, then sure.
Tell me when this was mailed out to us, when it was emailed to us.
So I believe it went out on Friday evening. The reason for the delay was there were student names included in the emails, which Tracy notified us that we had to redact those student names. So that process took some time. And so as soon as the names were pulled out, we were able to get it out to you all.
Because I have all my emails I've read, and I did not have this.
I think what Ms. Zucker's you're talking about the emails that we got from people. I think Ms. Zucker's asking for the actual articulation agreement.
Yes.
She's asking about this document.
Correct. That was sent out. That was sent out in a packet to. I believe it went out on by Tracy on the same packet, and I believe it went out Friday evening. And again, we had put it all into a packet for the courier to take to you all, but the students' names were on them, and we realized that we needed to pull those back.
So I didn't have it.
So I do apologize.
I do not like to be not prepared, and I did not have it, so thank you.
Okay. So once again, the idea was to take as much input as we could from the public using that 3-week window. And probably the key piece of the document is the portion that we have responded to SEF with. This is what we sent SEF with the feedback, asking for their consideration of changes or what our position would be on that. So I'm going to ask Catherine if you would, why don't you kind of walk them through this document right here?
All right, so the document he's referring to is the one that's got the red font on it. So what we did, Penny and I sat together after all the input had been sent in, well, at the close of the date, which was April 30th. Penny and I sat together and kind of looked through to see what comments were we getting, and we categorized them. As you'll notice, if you look through that packet, most of the emails had the same 9 points for us to consider. There were 2 additional emails that were somewhat different in their format. So what we did was we pulled out all of the comments and we kind of created our response to those comments. If you see in red, the red is where we felt like there was something that we could push back to SEF and say, please consider this. We're either in agreement with it or we see an area of opportunity to consider looking at it from a different perspective. The areas that are just in black were more of an explanation of what the process is that's currently in place, and not necessarily that we are in agreement or disagreement with it, just more what the process is. There were a few areas that when we sat down, we felt strongly that we could say to SEF, we're in agreement with this. For example, number 1, there's the word no exceptions listed, and it's redundant. There's a deadline date posted, and so the addition of no exceptions seems to be something that could be easily removed. So we pushed that to SEF. If you look further down the document, item 5, as far as fixing the cumbersome course registration process, when Penny and I looked through the procedures, though she knows it like the back of her hand because of her experience and guidance, it was clear that some of those steps were out of order. And so we're pushing back to SEF to say, let's think about what these are asking our parents and students and school staff to be involved in. So we kind of push back saying we want clarification there. When you continue on, items 8, 9, and 10, those are places where we don't really know that we have a definitive say. We want to start the conversation with SEF and negotiate through them, but we need to have SEF kind of push back to us to say, here's why we have those policies in place so that we can better respond. But we have asked SEF for a response in all of those areas, and will not be bringing the articulation agreement to you all until we've received a response from them as far as those items go.
So we're looking at an articulation agreement for grades 11 and 12.
The articulation agreement is just our agreement with SEF. It covers early admission, it covers our dual enrollment,
It
and
covers all 4 of those, but what about grades 9 and 10?
So 9 and 10 that is addressed in our articulation agreement. And we do offer opportunities to students actually in 6th through 12th grade if they're eligible.
And we do that across the schools or primarily at Pineview?
I guess if a student is eligible at any school, they would be able to enter into a dual enrollment opportunity.
But actuality, are there students in other schools besides Pineview?
In actuality, we do not have any 6th through 8th graders currently enrolled in dual enrollment at any of our high school campuses from a middle school.
Okay.
As far as 9th and 10th grade students, we know that there are 9th grade students and 10th grade students currently enrolled in dual enrollment opportunities at Pineview's campus. We have not pulled the data on our other high schools to see if there are any 9th and 10th graders, so I can't speak to that. But if a kid meets the eligibility requirement, they would be given admission into that course at their school site. Where we're working with SEF right now because of some of the other pieces, specifically at Pineview, SEF has said that they will allow our 9th and 10th graders to take courses on their campus and to take their e-courses if they're 9th and 10th grade.
But that is it. We will not be teaching any courses on the Pineview campus.
Yeah, that's the result of something else. But we do, I guess my point is that we are trying to make sure that our 9th and 10th graders have access to the dual enrollment.
And what courses are they taking?
As far as at Pineview, most of the...
What are they taking at SCF?
Well, the courses that they were currently enrolled in at Pineview were the ENC 1101 and 1102.
Which is basic English. It's the
Written
basic English courses that kids get who graduate from high school that go to SCF and take their first year basic English courses.
It's generally the first year courses.
They are not accelerated courses.
They are considered accelerated because they are
younger, but they're not accelerated courses in terms of there being an English course at a community college. Well, I mean, they're not. I've worked with some students that,
Well, if you look at the acceleration in the state level, IB, ACE, dual enrollment, AP, are all under the same category.
Right.
They're all considered accelerated.
Correct.
If they're taken during high school.
So but I'm trying to get to the root of this. So
the answer is ENC 1101 at the State College of Florida is the same, be it a 18-year-old recent graduate from high school,
correct,
or a dual enrolled Pineview student or a student from Sarasota High School. ENC 1101 is ENC 1101.
I'm with you. So my question is, why would they take that as opposed to taking the regular courses that we offer at Pineview?
So for those ninth graders, the regular course would be an English 1 honors class at Pineview School. So the assumption that I am making is that those students are showing their eligibility to take that college level course and are taking on that additional rigorous coursework.
And let me, if I could jump in, the other piece of this, they do accelerate through some other English courses at Pineview and other schools. I mean, they can go on the SEF campus and they can take other English courses, and they do. We have students that go beyond the ENC 1101, 1102. Obviously, the purpose of students, we just went through the presentation with SEF and our charter school, but obviously, students are pursuing dual enrollment opportunities so they can get their AA degree before they would go on to a 4-year college. We want to provide students that access, and as a matter of fact, across all of our districted schools, students have access to dual enrollment. Some have it at SCF. A lot of Booker High students take their dual enrollment on the campus. They early enroll. Because they're so close. Also, if you look at Venice and Northport, we have a lot of students that take early enrollment at SEF because of the location to the college. It's a great opportunity for them. So we have many students that early enroll. We have many students that take dual enrollment on the SEF campus. We have many students that take dual enrollment on our own campuses. So great opportunity. We offer just through acceleration, just as a general thought, we offer probably one of the few districts in the state. We offer an ACE program or an IB program at every one of our high schools.
Can I get dual enrollment in ACE or IB?
You can, yes.
In ACE, it's much more difficult in IB.
Yeah, but I would say as far as ACE and IB, if you
do we do it at State College campus?
I'm sorry, repeat that,
Do we do it in our articulation? We would do it in this articulation agreement?
No, not IB or ACE. We do not do an articulation agreement for IB and ACE. Those are separate programs that sit, self-standing programs that sit at the high schools. And let me give you an example. If a student follows a rigorous course pathway through an IB program, they're going to get college credit based on their scores on their exams. Some colleges accept other certain scores, and then others require more rigorous scores. So the idea would be absolutely they can get college credit for those courses, and many do.
And they get courses for many of the IB and the ACE courses that they take?
Yes. They get
and at Pineview, they get credit for many of the AP and honors courses that they take.
AP. They get college credit for the AP courses, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
there's a number of options. We always pride ourselves on choice and options, and one of the things we do is, like I said, we offer one of those programs at every one of our schools, and that's one way to get the acceleration and one way to get the college credit. Tuition waivers, large tuition waivers if you get an ACE diploma or you get an IB diploma. And then the dual enrollment is the other option. All three of them are wonderful options for our students.
Eric?
To go back to number one, I see that early college admissions has a deadline for May 15th, but when you're writing, you said dual enrollment. Is it the same May 15th for both? There's a dual enrollment? Because that just seems odd that dual enrollment would also have a May 15th deadline, because I could go down and register for SEF in August, so.
Well, when we talk about dual enrollment, kind of think of that as an umbrella. And we have what we call a dual enrollment program where a student in a junior or senior year could take 1 or 2 courses on the SEF campus. We also, under that dual enrollment umbrella, have a program called early admission.
I understand. But if I just wanted to take 1 course, do I have to do it by?
May 15th. If you're a K through 12 student, we have that deadline of May 15th to bring forth your test scores, your GPA, all the eligibility requirements and the paperwork to be eligible for either summer.
That just seems odd, because I know that kids go during the summer to meet with a guidance counselor to sign up for the classes for the new year, and if...
Typically, that is all done in May.
I worked as a guidance counselor last summer, during the summer, and so I saw kids all day registering for the classes.
They register for their, yeah, absolutely. I mean, we work, we start scheduling.
I mean, ask Mia Slayton. She works during the summer registering kids for class.
You can, every guidance counselor spends time in the summer scheduling students. You're exactly right. But we start our scheduling process in December for the next year. Okay, so we start setting up our schedules. We have a scheduling committee meeting. But as far as SEF goes, as far as State College Florida, they each set their deadline for enrollment. And the deadline at SEF is May 15th. Now, those students, those
is that a deadline that we're asking or a deadline they're asking?
That is their.
It seems like an odd deadline for them to ask for, since if I wanted to take ENC 1101, I wouldn't have to do it by May 15th. It seems odd.
You would have, let's say you're a 9th grader selecting courses for the 10th grade year. Course selection took place back in probably February for those students. So May 15th to turn in test scores and to say, I want to take a dual enrollment course, that's course selection. Schedule building, when you're going to take the class, how it works in your schedule, takes place throughout the summer. But our seniors, we schedule them before the winter break. They sit down in December. And so I would say May 15th is actually late in the course selection process. There's not a student on our high school campus today, is May 15th, that has not done course selection for the 18-19 school year. As a matter of fact, many have done that months and months ago.
Okay.
Shirley?
Then why are we getting pushback on this from parents?
I'm just going to answer that very directly. If you're enrolled in an ACE program, ACE has a very specific criteria that says to earn an ACE diploma, you must have certain courses in certain categories taken as an ACE course. To get an IB diploma, there is a very specific criteria that says you must take these courses to earn an IB diploma. Both those ACE and IB diplomas are held in very high esteem. They are prestigious diplomas. Pineview, I would put in the same category. Having graduated from the Pineview School is a very prestigious diploma, but we have not defined what it means to graduate from Pineview. And so unlike ACE and IB, where it's very rigorous, to earn that diploma, you have to do certain things. At Pineview, we have never said to graduate from Pineview, you need to take X amount of courses in AP, you need to take X amount of courses with our faculty, which are endorsed as gifted. We've never engaged that community to say, what does it mean to have graduated from Pineview?
Are we, or will we start that planning process, so maybe we'll eliminate some of this confusion these parents seem to have?
I don't know that that's, quite honestly, a superintendent or a board level decision. I think that is part of the community at Pineview needs to define what it means to have graduated from Pineview. But yes, I believe it's a process that they need to engage in, and it will answer a lot of these questions. And so we have Pineview parents who want the Pineview diploma, but they also want an associate degree. And so I don't think it's for me or the board to determine if that's appropriate. I think the community of Pineview needs to set the standard as to what does it mean to have graduated from Pineview. Steve, I know this is a conversation you and I have had on multiple occasions. Do you know where they are in engaging in that work?
They have not started the process as far as are they going to, let me back up. Pineview does require 26 credits. They have some additional rigorous expectations built into that diploma, but over the last 3 to 4 years, with the inclusion of more dual enrollment opportunities on the campus, as well as students going off campus. That's been questions that have been asked by the Pineview community. They are now included, Penny, I think I'm saying this right, please correct me if I'm wrong, but they have access to all of the dual enrollment that every other student has in this community. So one of the arguments you hear at Pineview is that we want to make sure that it's a gifted school. It's a grade 2 through 12 gifted school. It's one of the few in the country, highly successful. It seems to have a proven track record of success, but at the same time trying to blend and balance opportunities that we have for other students in this community, providing those opportunities for these students is something we've done. So that's a long answer to a short question, which was, have they started the process? We have had conversation with their new APC and principal about creating a group to look at what does it mean to have a Pineview diploma. We have students now that take virtual classes. They potentially could be taking virtual classes versus taking courses on campus at Pineview. We have students who could be taking virtual dual enrollment classes. So that's a great conversation that I think it's probably a good time for us to have that conversation with Pineview. And but I agree with you. It's up to the community at Pineview to. It's a very unique group, a very unique school, a very unique community, highly successful. And I think they should have a conversation about that at their school. Absolutely.
I think they should have input, but I think that our curriculum department defines what diploma is, what needs to be taken in order to get a Pineview diploma, or what needs to get anything else. I mean, certainly the parents should be able to have input, but curriculum should be decided by our professionals who are knowledgeable in that area of expertise and who know what a gifted diploma looks like and what a Pineview diploma looks like. Rather than, parents certainly have input, but we have these professionals and doctors for a reason, and I think that we should rely upon them heavily in making that decision. Not to say that we shouldn't allow them to participate and have input and be transparent as possible, but at the end of the day, it's Steve Cantee's and Dr. Kingsley's and people like that who should make the final call. That's my personal opinion. And that the board should stay out of it, because it's we're not knowledgeable.
As I remember, when Steve Largo was around, we didn't have this problem, because Steve Largo did not allow Pineview students to do dual enrollment.
Right.
And then all of a sudden now we've Pandora boxed everything and opened it up. I have a granddaughter who's in the 8th grade at Pineview, and is so excited about going to high school next year. She's not looking at dual enrollment. Right. She has plenty to keep her busy with courses at Pineview. What is the purpose of a gifted school if we're not utilizing the courses that we have in a gifted curriculum? Maybe we need to have that discussion in our curriculum department. But I think there are many schools that offer dual enrollment and other things. As I know it, I don't know a single kid in IB, Steve, who's doing dual enrollment. Do you know any that are?
I would guess.
That will have a dual enrollment AA?
Maybe an A.
No, they're not getting an AA. Yeah.
But I was told that they were not allowed. That was what I was told. I was told they were not allowed in ACE. They were not allowed in Mass. They were not allowed in IB. So here we have Pineview, which is a gifted magnet school, ranked 7th in the country, and so I think we want to keep that academic rigor high, and so I have questions about that, and I think knowing the Pineview parents, who are the most involved of any school that we have in the district, perhaps, and I think that's wonderful.